The SADC Troika meeting scheduled for this past Monday was postponed. The official reason is that leaders from Botswana and Mozambique were unable to attend. It was to discuss the conflict in Mozambique and the political crisis in the Kingdom of eSwatini. Now, reports are emerging that King Mswati III pulled the crisis in his country off the agenda, but the eSwatini government is rubbishing that claim. Let's get some clarity now from eSwatini High Commissioner to South Africa, Vulindlela Kunene. Thank you very much, Commissioner, for your time on all angles. Let's start with the obvious question. Did the King decide that the Troika cannot put on the agenda what seems like a political crisis in the kingdom?
Masejo, thank you. We saw the interview that you ran 2 days ago, and it left us disturbed because our non-attendance of the postponed Troika Summit last week. Perhaps I can give a bit of background in terms of what actually happened. We had an invite to the SADC Troika Summit, and we prepared to attend the SADC Troika Summit. And then on the Wednesday evening, we received communication from SADC that the Troika Summit had been downgraded from a summit to ministerial level. And because our issue was appearing before the summit for the first time, our issue had to be heard at summit level before it can be dealt with at Troika level, at ministerial level. Therefore, we indicated as much to SADC. We wrote formally to SADC informing them of the same situation, that our report was to be delivered to the summit, and as such, if it was at ministerial level, there was a redundancy in terms of our attendance. And they accepted this and they took us off the agenda. It was not at the instance of eSwatini that eSwatini did not come to the summit. It was because the summit was downgraded from summit level to ministerial level that there was a redundancy in our attendance, and that is what actually happened. So we were perturbed when we heard the reports that were circulating and the disinformation, to be frank, that was being shared as to why eSwatini was not in attendance of the summit, when in actual fact the summit itself had been cancelled and there was no summit effectively. It was a ministerial meeting of the Troika. Thank you.
So essentially the kingdom and the king felt that discussions around political turmoil or instability in the kingdom cannot be discussed at a ministerial level.
You misunderstand me slightly, Masejo. The nature of how SADC works is such that when the matter is before the summit for the first time, it is heard by the heads of state before it can be the ministers can be mandated to deal with it. And that was the redundancy that was created. The matter was supposed to be heard at head of state level, and then the ministers could sink their teeth into it. So that is a procedural issue. It is not a subjective issue on the part of eSwatini, but it's a procedural issue that SADC rules of procedure have in place.
All right. So I see you saying that it's procedural. So, but what can you tell us is happening in the Kingdom of eSwatini? Is the king still of the belief that there is no political instability in the country? Mr. Kunene, I'm not sure if you can still hear me, sir.
I've lost you, Masejo, but what I can say in terms of I lost you for a second, Masejo. Repeat the question.
Not a problem, Mr. Kunene. I was just asking because, you know, you remember what happened last year in the kingdom with the visuals that were sent across various parts of the world from those people who live in Swaziland. Is the king still of the belief that there is no political instability in the kingdom?
I think that we, as a country, we have discussed this extensively with President Ramaphosa and various envoys, and we are invested in a process that SADC is undertaking. And as such, we will be attending the next Troika Summit, should we be invited, and deliver our report at that level. And thereafter, I think that the matter can then be discussed further. As things stand, yes, there were images that were shared last year, but those were not unique to Eswatini, to be honest, if we're being frank. At about the same time, there were images elsewhere that were shared. So we are involved in a process with SADC, and we are in the process of finalizing that process. And as soon as we have engaged with SADC, I think there will be further developments along that score.
I think there's a bit of a difference that I just wanted us to talk about in terms of your comment that there were similar images shared somewhere else to that of the Kingdom of Eswatini. Some people who spoke to us on this channel were saying that their issue is that there is no democracy in the kingdom. They feel like they cannot give somebody else a chance to try and run the country. That's a different problem to what we would have here, for example, in South Africa.
We have election and a system of elections in Eswatini. We have a constitution that determines the scope and powers of everyone that lives in Eswatini. We have a monarchy that is a constitutional democracy. And as such, it is a fallacy to say that there is no democracy in Eswatini. There is a system where people have direct representation. They choose their own elected members of parliament. And from those elected members of parliament, even the people who go to cabinet and are chosen. So it's a fallacy to say that there is no democracy in Eswatini.
All right, thank you very much. That was Eswatini High Commissioner to South Africa, Vulindlela Kunene. He says it was a matter of procedure that the Kingdom of Eswatini said it would not attend to that meeting. He says, in fact, it went from a summit to a ministerial meeting, and the Kingdom of Eswatini, the issues there need to be discussed at a summit level before the different ministers in the SADC region can start discussing it.